People who are no longer bound by NDAs, what are some surprising secrets that you can expose?
Mr.reddit.
In a tech support role, one manager used to boast his team's average call times were the lowest in the company. While average call times were in the 12 to 17-minute range, his team was constantly under 10 minutes. His team was awarded multiple times and his strategy was adopted company-wide to all customer service and technical support teams, including our internal IT teams. That strategy was under a strict NDA, as we did not want to allow competitors to emulate it. When our call center would go bid on contracts, it became an awesome metric. Our customer satisfaction scores are on par, but we have call times 20 to 30% lower than our competitors. The dirty secret of the NDA that I was not allowed to disclose? Their big method? Just hang up on people, straight up. Find a way to say, okay, go ahead and do that and call back if it doesn't fix it, then hang up. Don't wait for confirmation. Okay, so reboot your PC and your problem should be solved. Thanks for calling, click. Eventually they came out with more useful metrics that track things like first call resolution, which absolutely shredded this company, and they went out of business a year or two later.
I remember reading an IT help blog back in the late 90s or so where a guy was documenting the shitty IT call center he was working, and the manager's favorite guy there had amazing numbers because he'd just tell every caller their warranty was voided and he couldn't help them. His throughput was amazing, huge call volume, very low call times. He was the department golden boy. Thing was, he considered any action taken as voiding the warranty. Turning the PC on would void it, according to him. So naturally they put him on a fast track to management.
Everything about working at a call center sounds soul-crushing. Even succeeding at one. Like hitting a home run on Alcatraz.
Agreed. I used to work as a patrol officer, and my vest contained a UPS call center. We would get dispatched there very frequently on medical assist calls, usually for someone having chest pains. It seemed odd that there were so many medical calls for relatively young and healthy people. Then I got to talking to someone who used to work there, and found out what was going on. If someone was sick at work, and they had to go home, they'd be docked a point. Too many points, and they would get fired, and it didn't take many points for that to happen. The exception was if they left for a medical emergency by ambulance. So if they weren't feeling well, but didn't want to earn a point, they would call 911 with chest pains, get transported away from the call center, and once they were around the corner they would tell the paramedics they didn't want to go to the hospital anymore. Edit, beat not vest.
I worked for a website creation company back in 1999, managing the website for a big brand/large bank that was sponsoring a round-trip paid ticket to the Super Bowl. I worked on the website that collected all the entries, and I posted the rules that the company's legal department wrote to describe the rules of the contest. A random winner was to be selected for the prize, and I wrote a software tool to randomly pick the winner to be used when the contest was over. When the contest ended, I was told to forget my tool, forget the rules, just look in the database and find someone in South Florida, where the Super Bowl was in 1999, so the company wouldn't have to pay for airfare.
On a similar note, whenever the contest involves writing a 25 words of less answer, best answer wins? They draw an entry at random, quickly check that the answer isn't complete nonsense or obscene, and that's the winner. Nobody got time to read all that shtt.
I was never under an NDA, but the hotel is under new ownership, so I guess I can say it now. The hotel had no internet connection starting around 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Like clockwork, every night. If it was just a system fault or if it was cost-cutting. But without internet, the security cameras didn't work or record anything. The fire alarm system doesn't work either. The alarms go off, but it doesn't call for help. So if we had a fire that started at 3 a.m. for example, then unless someone else that's driving by calls it in, I have no idea what's happening. One night we had an assault happen in the parking lot. The police needed camera evidence and our cameras didn't record anything because the internet was out. So that was fun explaining to the detectives.
As someone who works in property management, this seems like an insane risk to take to save a small amount of money. Most fires start during those hours, and an insurance fire investigator would easily find out what was going on and why there was no call-out. One moderate fire, and the owners would be out of business. Edit. Someone correctly pointed out that perhaps fires don't mostly start at those hours. But those are the hours in which fires grow unchecked. I should correct myself and say that the middle of the night is when you need the fire safety systems the most.
At my old job, Pam helped me reallocate my client's ad scheduling so I can invoice out a little extra for the last month of December 2014, helping me hit my yearly budget. I got let go 2 weeks after that, and I believe the original plan was to fire me under the justification of missing my yearly budget. Instead, I got a severance of $15,000. I believe Pam knew or heard what the lay of the land was and helped me out. Appreciate you, Pam.
My dad was axed in a similar manner in 2005. Was already on the chopping block for chronic illness the previous 2 years, but his HR rep suddenly got on his case about being up to date on certain info, and sure enough, he was let go right before New Year's 2006, but was able to maximize his severance, disability benefits, and COBRA due to her diligence.
The private school I worked for was for students identified with giftedness. The owner of the school administered the giftedness test. Can you pay the tuition? You're gifted. Can your sibling pay? Them too, your cousin? Neighbor? Kid you know across town? You're all gifted.
In Prince George's County, Maryland, county transit bus drivers are instructed following an accident they are not to speak to anyone until a supervisor arrives on the scene. An approved method for not talking, especially to other drivers involved, is to feign injury. There's actually money allotted to pay the fines related to wasting 911 and emergency resources, because analysts determined it was cheaper than costs associated with drivers accidentally admitting fault. There's also an entire audit and analysis team related to accidents because of the sheer volume of people who falsely claim to be on a bus during an accident. Edit. What an incredible response. To clarify, the current PG County the bus transit system is run by a company called RETP. They were hired during COVID, which was after I left the state. The company running the buses until 2020 was called Veolia.
Hasbro has tried to make the following 2 films: Stretch Armstrong, a gritty re-imaging starring Taylor Lautner, The Wolf from Twilight, with a Nolan's Batman feel, Candyland, a Lauder-style epic for children starring Adam Sandler. Both got pitch packets made before ultimately being shelved. Last I heard, the Candyland idea is still kind of alive.
Walmart corporate office puts a screensaver on all their workers' computers with a message urging them to donate to an emergency fund for their FT or near FT warehouse and retail workers. Instead of giving them healthcare or PTO, Walmart retail ND warehouse workers are kept just below FT so they can't get benefits, and the vast majority receive government benefits. Your taxes are subsidizing millions in benefits for the richest company in America, so the richest CEO in America is richer. Everything in the second paragraph of this post is public knowledge.
I once got hurt at work, a concussion specifically, on camera. I have a history with concussion-like symptoms. I was 99% sure I hit my head, but I lost all memory of the accident. I ended up missing a few weeks of work due to the severity. I wasn't 100% sure if I had some sort of mental breakdown, so asked to see the video so that I could confirm my injury. They flat out refused to let me see the video and told me there was no evidence that I hit my head. I offered to sign away any rights to sue, and I wasn't even asking them for hospital bills or paid time off. Long story short, I sued them, I won, and had to sign an NDA. I got my wages and hospital bills paid that I wasn't even asking for. And was finally able to get the video. It was a 100% no doubt head injury, complete with a loud bonking sound effect and me falling down and leaving a dent in the bulkhead that I hit. After the fact, the office staff told me that they were under orders from upper management to lie and saw they didn't see anything on the tape. They said this was standard for anyone who gets hurt, to just lie about it and let it play out in court. I obviously quit soon after.
Guy in our cargo handling warehouse was manually unloading a curtain-sided trailer filled with metal pipes. The load shifted and rolled him off the side of the trailer, pinning him to the ground. After months of sickness, he came back to work and applied for compensation. The company stated that he hadn't hurt himself at work, so he sued for compensation, and his lawyer demanded the security recordings of him having to unload a trailer on his own, totally against the company's own HSE rules. The company then claimed the security records had been overwritten, wiped, destroyed in a freak nuclear explosion. Anything to get out of the court seeing them. Fortunately, my mate had a friend who worked in HR, and she copied the CDs and gave them to him. So in court, when the legal rep for the company told the judge that the security recordings had been lost, mate's lawyer had the joy of standing up and telling the judge that this wasn't a problem, he had copies himself. According to Insider Lady in HR, the company took the original CDs out into the car park and burned them.
That situation is damn near identical to what happened to me. I was working for a scrapyard that shipped out parts, and when I was loading one of the smaller trailers, I stepped off it and someone hit the side of it with a forklift, which caused the trailer to pin me up against another big workpiece we had been getting ready to ship. Injury was caught on camera and had multiple witnesses. I dropped to the ground after being unpinned because I couldn't feel my legs. Brought to the hospital in an ambulance. Took time off work, and when I tried to apply for SIB, I was told that because I had back issues in the past, true but nowhere near what I ended up dealing with after this injury, they chalked it up to being a pre-existing condition. When I attempted to fight it, I lost my case due to a coworker who witnessed the accident lying about it in a statement to WSIB, even though he watched the entire thing and even helped me during the accident. Found out it was because he was sucking the boss's asshole trying to get a promotion, so he thought by fucking me over and showing loyalty to the company he could get ahead. Lost 6 years of my life going through 2 back surgeries at 17 to 18 years old, got hooked on painkillers for a while until I pulled myself off them all on my own. Worst experience of my life and changed the entire trajectory of my life going forward. 0 out of 10 would not recommend.
So the fact that you left your workplace in an ambulance was not sufficient evidence you suffered an injury at work.
I thought this as well at the time and thought these things would be undeniable, especially given that I ended up requiring 2 surgeries. Part of this was my fault, as I was only 17 at the time the accident happened and had no clue about the things I should have done following the accident, like filling out paperwork and hiring an actual lawyer to help me. I grew up poor, and I had found my father dead one morning not long before I started the job I had the accident at. Part of the reason I was working in the first place, so at the time the last thing I could have imagined doing at the time was paying for a lawyer. I foolishly thought the system would sort everything out for me because I thought everything would be undeniable, and I paid for that mistake dearly. Essentially because I didn't fill out the after-accident paperwork and my place of employment conveniently claimed they had no such records, it ended up being my word against theirs, and even though I had a doctor who attested to the damage in the back, the courts wrote it off as a pre-existing injury. My work even somehow managed to find out, co-worker I presume, and used the fact that I used to free run and had been acutely injured in the past. Mind you that while that's true, it was minor, as in some cuts and bruises on my back. Happy to have been able to share this with you guys, and I appreciate everyone's support. I'm not going to complain about it though, because at the end of the day a lot of it was caused by my own naivete, but still felt like a snake move by my place of employment for sure.
About 20 years, I signed an NDA with a very large record company regarding their attempts to get into selling their catalog online, streaming, sales, etc. It was a minefield because they were still wary of pissing off high street retailers, and that's where the charts came from. These attempts were frustrated by their top-level corporate guys. One week they all went to a "What is an MP3?" conference in Buenos Aires to get them up to speed. The thing is, they spent so much time partying, the only talk which seemed to stick was the scare tactics about how teens could scrape MP3s from the web, and they could be copied and redistributed easily. When they came back, every item in the catalog was ordered to be scrubbed from the web. Number 30-second previews. Nothing should be audible. Not a hint of audio. Lock it all down. Put all the tapes in a chest and seal it with concrete at the bottom of the sea. That's gonna make everyone go back to CDs. Good old profitable CDs.
Early 2000s, I worked in the clothing department at Walmart, and one night I was handed a memo that I was to secretly cut out all the tags on a list of product that said "Made in Myanmar" because the brand was subtly trying to hide that they were doing business there. I believe it was Hanes.
Worked in technical customer support for a IT/hardware company. We were sold a bad batch of chips from a supplier. The chips caused random watchdog resets, which would cause random crashes/reboots. The company got a settlement due to it to remediate it, but the MBA/legal types deemed it too expensive to fix what was already in the field, so they fixed it in support. We had very strict talking points when our customers would report this issue. Everyone in the support team knew what the issue was and had each worked several cases of it. But our script made us act stupid, like it was a unique case that had never happened before. It is kind of hard to do that when you have replaced multiple units for the same customer in several weeks. But if you diverted from the talking points, you got counseled by management. This issue caused several very high-level outages/issues at many of our customers. We knew why, and we were told to act dumb and bury it in process/procedures, so we didn't take the hit on needing to replace the known faulty hardware.
Manipulation of data to give false impressions of reliability was something I saw quite blatantly utilized with little repercussions. My company was struggling to meet on-time delivery schedules and for numerous years was as embarrassingly low as 40%. A new manager comes in and within months we are now boasting an on-time delivery rate on a brilliant 95%. Turns out all he did was change what constituted an on-time delivery. Each time we knew a product would be late, we'd notify the customer of the delay and ask them to confirm they still wanted the order. If they still wanted the product, the on-time delivery would be recorded against the new expected date as opposed to the original promised date. Company literature was being sent out boasting of our 95% on-time delivery, now amongst the highest in the industry, when in fact we were by that point meeting less than 30% of initial delivery schedule targets. It was so simple that I'm sure numerous companies are getting away with such underhand tricks.
I briefly worked at a university in South Florida in the late 90s and early aughts. I was chosen to be on an academic integrity team, basically reviewing claims of plagiarism and cheating and deciding between the 5 of us whether it is valid or not. We were made to sign NDAs when we accepted the invite to be a part of the team. There were 3 instances where an employee that was taking classes there clearly cheated, and the issue was brought to our attention. Those 3 times, the cheating was blatant. All 3 times, we were told to let it go, as it would look bad for the university to have it get out. I'm not sure if this is common for other universities, but at the time, I was under the impression that it was common practice everywhere. It was ultimately one of the main reasons I ended up quitting. I was, and still am, disgusted by it. Edit, I did not expect this one to blow up the way it did. Just wanted to say that I am loving and cringing at your stories. The seediness is astonishing.
I brought allegations of plagiarism to University of Houston. The accused was a very popular superintendent of a nearby school district. I was interviewed by the university's integrity panel, and often felt like I was the one suspected of wrongdoing. They even suggested the possibility of hackers uploading a plagiarized version to their database. I was disgusted. They went quiet after a year and a half, so I spoke at the Board of Regents meeting and asked the president of the board, Tillman Fertitta, to do the right thing. A week later they concluded the investigation and pulled his dissertation. Google Lance Hind plagiarism today for more about the story.
Here you go, folks. In July 2016, Lance Hind was appointed to a 5-year term as superintendent of the Katy Independent School District, ISD. It was a triumphant moment for Hind, one that saw him come back to his hometown to head one of the largest school districts in Texas. He began the job on October 1st and, by most accounts, his tenure was reasonably successful. He backed teacher pay raises and even drafted a $609 million bond package that won over voter approval. However, his career took a sharp turn on March 19, 2018. On that day, during an otherwise routine school board meeting, a former classmate of Hind, Gregory Gay, took to the podium and accused Hind of bullying him during their time junior high school together. Hind was seen chuckling at the allegations, which helped cause the video of the accusations to go viral and become national news. Despite the allegations being nearly 40 years old, Hind, for his part, denied the allegations, but others came forward, including an Alabama judge, to accuse Hind of having a bullying past. There was even a lawsuit that accused Hind of beating a man unconscious when he was 18. The case was settled without criminal charges, but in the midst of the bullying allegations, a new set of accusations rose to the surface. Sean Dolan, himself a former Katy ISD student and parent of children in the district, noted on his blog, A Better Legacy, similarities between Hind's 2012 dissertation from the University of Houston and a 2008 dissertation by Keith Rowland at Liberty University. What makes the Lance Hind case so unusual is not the allegations against him. Neither the bullying allegations nor the plagiarism allegations are, by themselves, unusual. Many people in prominent positions face allegations of a checkered past, and even accusations of plagiarism in dissertations are remarkably common. What is unusual in this case is the response by both Hind and the Katy ISD. With both allegations, Hind and the Katy ISD never really took the allegations seriously. Though Hind did eventually apologize for his bullying past and admit to being a young man that did dumb things, that came out after details surrounding the lawsuit emerged, looking back to the plagiarism element. Hind has always denied committing any plagiarism, even after Dolan and others pointed at significant portions of overlapping text. Even now, with the removal of his dissertation, he had not admitted to issues with his work and has stayed silent since the latest news. But what is even more bizarre is the support from the Katy ISD. The school board never wavered from their support for Hind and never seriously investigated any of the allegations against him. At least some teachers in the district were similar, even holding a rally for him after a school board meeting. Why this was the case is anyone's guess. Hind was largely responsible for a major bond referendum that brought in $609 million to the district and also helped increase teacher pay. However, even that doesn't explain the complete lack of curiosity about the allegations. Judging from the extensive news coverage, no one at Katy ISD investigated or even sought to significantly address the allegations. This may have ultimately harmed Hind, who could have benefited from an impartial and transparent investigation that showed both he and the Katy ISD were taking the issues seriously. However, it's also a missed opportunity in other ways. One of the major criticisms of Hind has been his handling of bullying at the Katy ISD. When revelations about his own past came out, he had an opportunity to talk openly about it, discuss what he had learned from it, why he changed and how it was going to apply those lessons to his duties. Likewise, with the plagiarism allegations. There was an opportunity to show that the Katy ISD takes academic integrity seriously, investigate the claims independently and show students that these issues are significant. They missed that opportunity as well. By rushing to his defense, the board and educators at the Katy ISD not only may have hastened his resignation by throwing gasoline on the firestorm around him, but they also missed some great opportunities to actually teach the students under their charge. Bottom line, to be clear, the major critics of Hind do have at least a degree of personal animosity against him. However, that doesn't mean that he's the victim of a smear campaign. To find that out, one has to look at the facts. The facts seem to indicate that he is, at the very least, problematic in these areas. The lawsuit against him and the removal of his dissertation don't necessarily prove that he was a horrible person or a rampant plagiarist, but they hint that there were issues in his past. These are issues that Hind and the Katy ISD ignored and denied. By not confronting these issues openly, directly, and transparently, Hind and the Katy ISD made things much worse. That's true not just for Hind, but for the students in the district, and that, in turn, is what is strange about this story. That what was best for the students was never really addressed. The board and at least some of the district's teachers rushed to protect Hind without really addressing the issues behind the controversies. In doing so, they missed some great opportunities to turn this controversy into something positive and only harmed everyone involved.
Thank you all for watching. If you are interested, subscribe and watch other videos.